is going to be a very interesting series of 2 chapters, and the first chapter is gonna be all about backend, and the second chapter will be all about front end. So we are gonna use many things in this particular series which will help you in becoming a kind of a developer who knows and understands each and everything of building an application. So we will start with making a PK Netflix, kind of a Netflix clone, which will have the backend. Backend we will use Appwrite. So it's an open source backend as a service kind of infrastructure which you get, and it's being used by a lot of modern application, and you don't have to do a lot of things. It's basically similar to Firebase, but it's open source, unlike Firebase. So that's something which we are gonna see. We will try to handle all sort of things using it, like authentication, authorization, databases, file storage, cloud function, webhooks. Everything is there. Okay, so we'll see what we can use from this particular service. So first of all, we have to install it. Okay, so in this video, as I mentioned, this particular chapter will be all about just about backend, where we will see how we can write things to our database, and we'll touch a little bit of JavaScript as well, or Node as well. And in the second part, where we will talk about front end, we will make our application in Flutter. So we'll consume all this data of Appwrite, and we'll see how to make it functional. So let's start with the installation part. So to install Appwrite, I'm going to use Docker. So if you want to use Docker, that's totally perfect. Even if you don't want to use it, you can skip it, right? So I'm just going to run a command, and I'm just going to start my Docker first of all. So I have the Docker already running here. So as you can see, I can run this Docker using this command. What I'm going to do, I'm going to use my terminal as well. So here in the terminal, so here is my terminal. I'm gonna write a command docker run, and then I'll specify the volume. Then I want to write Appwrite, and I'm gonna install Appwrite 0.12.0, and I'm gonna just say enter. So it's saying unable to find image locally. So now it will fetch from the from some server. So it's taking some time, and it will get it done. Once it is done, then we will be able to easily use the service. So if you I'm running it on M1 Mac. If you want, you can use it somewhere else as well. So now as you can see, it's asking me to choose my server port. Default is 80, so I'll just say enter, so that it can take the 80 only. And HTTPS port 443. Choose a secret API key. We don't have an API key as of now, so I'll just press enter. Enter your Appwrite host name. By default it uses localhost, so that is fine. And for CNAME also, I'm just gonna say default. So it's now running this, and it should be fine. Okay, so Docker compose this is okay. So we have this particular thing over here, and once it fetches all the Appwrite related stuff, so yeah, now it's running. So you can see Appwrite installed successfully. So now it's running. So now if I go back to my browser, then I can just refresh it, and you can see we have a sign up page, right? You can create your account. You can put your name, email, password, whatever you want to do. So let's say I have a name, Pawan Kumar. Email, let's say I say mtechviral@gmail.com, or Kotpu, whatever I want to use. Password, okay, let me give it some random password. Okay, so I just gave it some random password, and I'll just sign up. Okay, so I signed up. Let's see how much time it's gonna take. So okay, now it has created my project. So it says create project. So let's say I create a new project. Project ID is auto generated. So if I want, I can change it. I can, let's say I can say PK Netflix. Okay, and I can name it as well, PK Netflix, and then I can just say create. Okay, so let's do that. So it will create this. We have a lot of things. We have API keys, webhooks, settings, storage, documents, and all those kind of things. Okay, so let's explore settings first. And here we can see we have overview, services, custom domains, members. So I'll go to services, and I don't need all the services here. So we can just disable few of them which we don't need. For example, we don't need health service. So okay, and we need storage actually. We don't need teams, so we can just remove teams also. We can remove locale, so that's also fine. And what else? Functions, cloud functions, similar to that, we right now don't need it. Okay, so service is configured now. Let's go to settings of this. Okay, this is fine. So we can see here that what are the different authentication methods, okay, which we can use, right? So I just want to use email password, so I can disable all of this: JWT, invites, anonymous, magic URL. So only email password is required. Okay, so that's perfect. Okay, so we are done with the setup part mostly. Okay, at least the configuration part. So now what we need, we basically need this database, so we can go to database. So basically what is database here? So it's a NoSQL kind of database where we have a lot of collections. Okay, collection is nothing but it's a combination of documents. Okay, and which have like similar structure, and permissions are almost the same. So, and in fact the same right, and it is nothing but a JSON kind of structure where you will have some keys and values, right? So what we can do, we can create a new collection, and by making a collection we will understand what is the process and how things work, right? So we will create two collections basically. So we'll start with the first one. So first collection, I'm gonna just say add collection. So I have collection ID which I can change. Either I can use auto generated or I can change. So let's call it movies. Okay, because on Netflix you probably watch movies, right? Or TV series. So let's call it movies. And name also we can give, let's say movies. Okay, once we are done with this, okay, let's create. So once we are done, you can see we are redirected to the settings page, right? So okay, so basically why it is redirecting me to settings page is because it asks me to set some kind of permissions, right? That not everyone should be able to read from your collection, right? Which is the default case, right? So permission, document level, connection, collection level, all those things are also there. So so we don't need document level permission, but rather we need the entire collection level permission. So I will select collection level, then it will ask me about a few things, right? Like read access, who will get, write access, who will get, right? All those sort of things. So so what we can do here, as you can see, we have something called a role column and all for something like that. So okay, so this is the format which they use, right? If you see, so what we can do, we can set here role and member. Okay, so whoever is the member, he should be able to get the access. Okay, and write access, for now let's leave it like this. Okay, and we will update it, so that should be fine. This is done. Okay, now permissions are done, but movies collection does not have anything. So we will go to attributes and we can create some attributes. Okay, so I'll just do it quickly. We can do string, integer, float, boolean, URL, email, IP, enum. So let's start with string attribute. So first attribute, I'm gonna just say, for example, name. Okay, size 255, required yes, and array false, and default value we don't have to give, so let's create it. The second one which I'm gonna create, we will also create some integer, right? That what is the duration and all. So we'll create duration. We'll say, for example, duration minutes. Okay, so these are minutes. Minimum, maximum we can give it. So required yes, minimum 1, maximum 1000 minutes, and that should be fine. is there any float value? Yes. So new float attribute, we can just say trending trending page. We need index for that, so we'll just say trending index, that what is the index of this particular movie in the trending page, required true, no minimum maximum. And then we need some boolean as well. So for boolean we will say if it is original, Netflix original, then we can say required yes. And by default we can also give it true, but no, we don't know, so let's leave it like this, create. Okay, it's failed actually. Why it failed? Okay, there's some issue with this. Last is enum. We can have an enum attribute as well. For example, we can say add age restriction, which you must have seen in some movies, right? Restriction. We can make it required true. Elements, we can just say, for example, AR7, AR13. Okay. Basically, we can add element. So AR7, AR13, AR16. These are some elements which are basically for age restriction we are using it, and we will just say create. Okay, so we are mostly done. The only thing is this field, which is original. There is some issue because it got failed for some reason. I don't know. Let's do one thing. Let's not make it required. Let's delete it and let's add it again. Is original. Okay, and let's create it. Okay, now it's perfectly fine. Okay, so we are done with the attribute part. That took some time, but I think we should be good. But it's not just about the movies collection. Okay, we have something called indexes as well. Okay, so we have to create some indexes again. Why we don't have anything? Because we haven't created anything, and this index can be very useful for applying filters, for sorting things. So there are a lot of things, so let's add these indexes then. So the first attribute we are gonna use is trending index desk descending. We will select here trending index. Okay, and then the descending, and then we will create it. Similarly, we will make is original. So we are done with this part as well. Okay, so most things are done. What we have to do, this is the movie collection. Okay, so movie collection, we have attributes, we have indexes for sorting and filtering and all those kind of things. So this is our one collection. Okay, let's do it. Let's create a new collection. We will call it watch lists. Okay, so watch list you must have seen already, right? And I'm gonna name it watch lists, right? Let's create it, and we can again give the permission, this time not on collection level but on document level, so we understand that as well, right? So that we have control over every document, not just a collection but on documents explicitly. So now I'll just update it, and then we will go to attributes. So we have to add attributes, so let's add the string one. So now we will add two more indexes. Okay, this attributes is done. Indexes we need. So first index, let me just refresh it so that it loads those indexes. So first is created at. Okay, and description, for example. So this is a key. We'll say created at, and we will keep it descending. One more is user ID. So we'll say user ID ascending, and then movie ID ascending, both together. Movie ID ascending. So this is again key, and here I can use user ID ascending. I can add another attribute movie ID ascending, and I can create it. Okay, So we are done with the setup part mostly. Okay, now this is not it. Okay, this is just a setup of this collection, but we need data as well. Okay, so how we will get that data? Okay, we may get it from a third party API, and basically you can do use any programming language, and you can consume that data. So basically there are a lot of examples out there. You can choose anything, but I have a GitHub repository which is mentioned by um, the Appwrite team itself. So I'll just use that. So I'm just making a video out of that only. So what we can do, we can clone that repository, right? And then what we can do, we can field this data using that. Okay, so let's see what is that repository. So I'll just paste the link over here. So as you can see, it is almost Netflix project setup. So this is nothing but a simple Node.js project where we have a source folder thing. So what we can do, we can clone this project. Okay, so we can clone this, and then after cloning it, we can fill some data, and then we should be done. Okay, I'll go to my folder, for example, dev tutorials. Okay, here, and I'll just paste this repo, and I'm cloning it. So actually it is done. CD almost Netflix project setup, and I'll open it in VS Code. So let's see if it opens in VS Code. Yes. So we are here in the VS Code. Let me increase the size a little bit. Okay, so you can see we have .env example where we have to specify the endpoint, right? And everything, right? So what we will do, we will not use this file, but we will create another file. We will call it .env, right? And here we can specify all of these things. So I'll just copy and paste it over here, right? So Appwrite endpoint. Okay, so we will go back to our Google Chrome, and in the Appwrite section we have API keys and everything. So well, first of all I'll go to home, then we have settings, and here I guess we will find the project ID and API endpoint. So API endpoint we have here, so I'll just copy it, and then I'll just paste it. Okay, so this should be fine. Then project ID, so project ID also will go back, we'll copy it, and we will come back and we will paste it. Okay, let's do it like this. Now Appwrite API key. Okay, so we'll go back, we have to create the API keys, I guess. So add API key. So now so let's give it all permission, in fact. Okay, for now. Okay, and yeah, I mean, for now it's fine. Okay, so we can name it pk key, pk API, something like this. Let's create it. Okay, show secret, and we can just copy it, and I think that should be fine. Okay. Okay, cool. So we have got the API key for this as well. Now we need MDB API key. MDB is nothing but TMDB API key. So what we can do is basically we can go to TMDB website and we can fetch the API key from there. So if I go to TMDB API, so so we have to log in. Okay, so let me see if I have some account over here or not. So let's try this. I'm not sure if yeah, I have the account over here. So let's see if I can get the API key. Um, so let's see settings, and we have API. Okay, so I have the API key over here. I'll just copy it, and I'll go back to my project here and I'll paste it. Okay, so we are done with this part. I guess we are done mostly with the setup part. We have two files. Okay, we have migration.js, which will check if we have done everything right or not. Okay, let's do that. Let's just directly go and let's run node. Okay, and src seeds.js. Actually, we don't have to run migrations until unless you if you haven't followed the step. Okay, like the previous section where I set up movies watch list. So I think you can do that, like using this particular migration file. This will do the job for you. But I mean, if you have already done it, then you don't have to do that. You'll just run migrations.js and you should be fine. Related stuff, what you have to do, you have to do npm install as well, so that you install all the dependencies. And I think once we are done with the dependencies, so what it will do, it will just reset everything. Okay, and then we will just run seed.js, and now it is downloading some movies and pushing that data to my Appwrite database. So let's see how much time it takes, but ideally it will not take that much time and it should be straightforward. Okay, so storage, we can go to storage and we can see some data coming over here. Okay, this is really nice. And if I go to movies, in fact, right, documents, we can see some documents over here as well, the Kingsman and all those kind of things. So this is looking pretty good. Spider-Man No Way Home, and it's downloading 25 sets, so it will download 500 movies. Okay, so let's see how much time it takes and let it complete. See over here, so if we go back to our portal right now, we can see we have a lot of movies as of now. So that should be good enough for us to test our application and to play with it. I mean, we can feed more data in the future as well. That's totally fine. So now if we go back to attributes, everything looks sorted. These are the same attributes which I created, apart from the migration part which we did to just fix a couple of them if there was an issue. And you can see we have an activity tab over here as well, where we can see the anonymous user is basically creating some sort of database. And as you remember, in the settings part, for writing we left it empty because we are not setting any permission, so anyone can upload data as of now, and usage we haven't done as such. So basically we have successfully prepared our project. In the storage also you can see all the images which are there. So now we are done with the backend part. Now we have to prepare front end. So you'll get the website on Google, so appwrite.io. So you can see about all the features it offers, like database, auth, user, storage, functions. We cannot cover all of these, but we'll try to cover as many as possible in the future videos as well, and in this video as well. Right guys, so we are going to make a Netflix clone in Flutter. So I'm not gonna explain all the UI stuff to you, but majorly because I think that you already know the UI stuff. If you have not learned Flutter for making UIs, then you can watch my other videos. You can take my other Flutter courses as well. So what we are gonna build, let me just show you. So you can see it's a Netflix clone where we have TV shows popular this week only on Peak and Netflix. Okay, so this is just for fun, by the way. New release animation, you have a watch list. If you click on a movie, it shows some description, and it's kind of copied from Netflix UI, kind of, or totally copied. Okay, and then you have watch list where you can add some entries like the Batman, Spider-Man, and all those sort of things. For example, if I go here, I can add it to my list, and I have some code running, so let's just ignore that. So yeah, I mean, those sort of things you can do. You can see turning red is there. So we'll create this particular stuff using Flutter. I'll show you how to just copy and paste few stuff here and there and just make it running. This is using Appwrite behind the scenes, and that is the motive of this video, to show you how to integrate Appwrite with your front end. So let's get started. And one more thing is basically like, share, and subscribe the channel if you like the videos. Thank you. I'll go to code And here I can just say Command Shift P, and I'll say new Flutter project, Flutter new project application. And I can, for example, I can go to desktop dev tutorials, and I can select this folder. I can call it PK Netflix, for example, and it will create a new project for me. That's a good thing. So I'll just remove this. Okay, now we have this sort of blank kind of project. So let's go to pubspec.yaml first, and let's set all the dependencies which we need. Okay, so we need kind of 4 or 5 dependencies which I'm gonna just copy and paste. So for example, we have Cupertino icons already. We will add few more. Okay, so let me add it. So we have added provider for state management so that we don't have to use inherited widget. We have added Fluoro. Okay, I'll show you Fluoro. Appwrite, which is basically needed to deal with the Appwrite database and everything. And we have added shared preferences to store some data in the local shared preference, like a keys or something like that. So this is a routing library basically, if you'll see. So it has simple routing, navigation, function handlers, a lot of things. Okay, you can use anything else. Okay, if you are using VX navigator, you can use that as well. This is cool, that is also cool. And if something else you can use for, similarly for state management, I'm using provider in this particular tutorial, but you can use VX state, you can use block, you can use catex, whatever you want to use. Okay, so there's no such thing like this is the final thing which you should use. Nothing like that. You can use whatever you want to use. So let's create another folder over here. Let's call it assets, and inside assets we can have another folder called images. Okay, and in images I can paste some images. Okay, so I have some images now over here. So what I'm gonna do inside here, I can just say assets. I'll just uncomment this line of code as well as this, and I'll just say assets slash images. Okay, so this is a normal stuff which we do generally. Okay, with any Flutter application, you must have seen it. Let's create some folders over here, right? For example, let's create a new folder called API. Okay, let's create a new folder called data for data part. Let's create a new folder for data we can use for providers. Okay, we can have a folder for screens maybe, and we can have folder for widgets. Okay, and we can have a folder for extensions. Okay, so these are our folders. Now what we are going to do, we are going to create a Appwrite client first of all. So I'll go to API, I'll create a new file, and I'll call it, let's say, client dot dart. Okay, so what it will do, it will have basically all the client related code. So we will set the project as PK Netflix, which we have set, right? And even the endpoint which we have, so we will just take it again from the our Appwrite database. So we can just go to home settings, and we can see the endpoint here. We will just go back, and we can just paste it over here. So this will be our endpoint. Okay, looks good. Then we have, this is basically just a singleton class, if you can see, right? We have account, we have database, we have storage, and this is just a singleton. Okay, we will have to create some provider sort of, right? So provider will deal with, like, for account we will create an account provider and things like that, right? So account provider we can create in the provider section, right? So in the provider we can create a new file, for example, account dot dot. So every provider will basically extend this change notifier. So we have kind of current user, right? And then we have session, and then we have cached session. So we can also get this cache session using shared preference to do that. but as of now we don't need that. Is valid or not, that those are all the things. So right now API client we have to import. Okay, let's import the API client. Okay, so what is there? So if we have a cached session, we can use the store. Store is nothing but it is using shared preference. I'll create the store right now. I can create a new file called store.dart. Okay, and what this store.dart will have, it will have the shared preference stuff. So I'll just copy and paste. It has nothing but shared preference. So you can see shared preference, we have instance and another singleton, we have some methods which are basically, if you see, insert, set, get, remove. Okay, so that's what we are using over here. That what we are saying basically is that from store get the session, and then from session class we can like just decode that and use it. Then we have a method called is valid. If the account is valid or not, or if the session is valid or not account, we can register user using email, password and name. So we are just saying api client dot account dot create. User id is basically, and we are passing unique. Email, we are passing the email passed by the user, and password and name. And then when we say notify listeners, that means that there is some change. Okay, the change notifier comes to the picture here, where we just say that there are some changes and we want to notify all the listeners who are listening for this. Then login is similar. We have a string email password. We will use again another method called create session with email and password. And then we can use store.set, and we can just set the session and encode the values. And then again, the same notifier. Okay. So main again, it is Appflix. So we can just say PK Netflix as the title. And in the future builder, we have context or account provider. In the builder, we are just saying that check for account provider. If there are valid session, then use nav screen, otherwise use onboarding screen. Okay, so if the session is there, then we will use nav screen, which means the user is already available. And if the session is not there, then we will use the fresh onboarding screen. Okay, so that's what it means. And in the future part of it, we are just checking if it is valid session or not, right? Okay, all right. So based on this particular thing, we will decide this session, and this is how you use context.watch and context.read using provider package. So that's totally fine, I guess. Now what else we need? So first of all, we will have to create all those, like we have an entry provider, so we need to create entry as well, right? And then we have to create our data model as well. So we will do those kind of things first, and then we will come back and we will kind of make UIs as well, right? So if we go to entry, so in the data part we can create a new file called entry.dart. So you can see entry is nothing but ID, name, description, age, restriction, and all those fields which we created in the last video. And there's a date time extension which it is demanding. So I'll create that date time extension as well. We can just go to extensions folder, and I can just say date time dot dart, and we can paste the extension over there. And now I can import it. Okay, so we are done with the entry. Now we have to make another provider, which will be entry provider, right? So we'll go to providers, we'll create a new file. Again, entry, entry.dart. And you can see if entry is basically, it has something like selected, a getter and setter, then featured, then entry list of entries, originals, animations, new releases. What it is doing, it is basically, if you remember, we have this sorting and filter. So we are just saying entries dot where, if it is original, just give us the original, right? And all those sort of things. Then we have a trending section where we are using trending dot sort, and based on trending index we are sorting it. So this is all possible because of the indexing which we have done. Then if we want to select a particular one, we will just say selected is equal to entry, and we will notify the listeners. We have the API client over here, so we'll just import it. And when we need a list, we will just say API client dot database dot list documents, and we will pass the collection ID. So if you see the collection ID, it's movies, right? This is the same ID which we set. So this is totally fine. Then if we want an image for those movies, so we will pass the entry, and using the thumbnail image ID, we can get that as well. And basically using the storage get file view method, we can pass the ID of the file, and we will get that file in the result. So that's what is happening all over here. And we can just enable entry provider as well. So I'll just do that. Okay, so this change notifier is also done. What I'm gonna do in the screens, I'm gonna create first screen, which will be home screen. Okay, so home dot dot. So home screen is nothing but home screen is basically having a scroll offset scroll controller. It will have a similar to Netflix design which we have seen. Then we have a content bar which we will add, then content header, and we are using entry provider here, which I'll just import. Okay, then we have another widget called previews, which will show the previews. Then we have content list and content list, right? So what I'm gonna do, guys, I'm quickly gonna create these widgets. So in the widget section, I'll create two folders. One will be for buttons, and one will be for content. So in the content part, we will have three files. One will be bar dot dot. One will be header dot dot, and one will be list dot dot. Okay, and similarly in buttons, we will create icon dot dot. So first, let's start with the bar dot dot. So watch list screen we don't have yet. So we'll create that, but assets we can create. So in the main dot dart itself, we'll create assets dot dart. I mean, it's just a class with assets to all the assets, like the link to all the assets. Can just import assets. Okay, so we are just left with the watch list. So what is happening in the content bar? It is a container with some row where we have the logo, and then we have some app bar button like TV shows, movies, my list. Once I'll show you this in the UI, you will understand each and everything, right? Now let's go to the header part and let's add the header. So it has entry, which I'll just import, entry provider, which I'll again import, and vertical icon button. So icon button we don't have detail screen and all these kind of things, or watch list provider. So we will add those as well. So now let's go to the last one, which is list dot dart. So it has again some entry. So I'll just import that. It is having some detail screen and entry provider. So now we are done with this. Now we have one more icon dot dart, this vertical icon button, and that's it. So now I can go to header, maybe bar. For watch list screen, we have to add in the header, we have the vertical icon button, so we'll just import that. So watch list provider is something which is missing, and detail screen is something which is missing. So what we will do, we will create watch list dot dart. Okay, so I'll just add the entry provider and vertical icon button, watch list provider. Okay, so this is basically watch list provider itself, I guess. Okay, so this is basically, oh, this should be in the screens part, guys, sorry. So in the screens we will move it. Okay, and we will create another provider which is for watch list. So I'll go back to providers. I'll create a new file, watchlist dot dart watchlist, which is basically nothing but import, and we will just say import. Okay, so we are done with this. We'll go back to watchlist, and we have just watchlist provider missing. Anything else? We have details screen. I'm gonna go to screens and I'm gonna say details dot dart ports, which we don't need actually. We can import vertical icon button. We can import watch list provider as well. We have all those sort of things. We have entry provider as well. And what else? So details is also complete, I guess. So I'll just add onboarding screen, onboarding dot dart, and one more screen which we need is basically for navigation. So navigation dot dart. Okay, so let's start with the onboarding one first. So onboarding screen is nothing but for sign in and sign up. So I'll just say import library. Okay, and then I have nothing else over here. So let's go to navigation one, the last one, I guess. Let's do the home screen. Let's have the entry. Let's have the another entry provider. And I think we just need a watch list screen. Okay, let's go back to home now. Let's see what it needs. It needs content list. We have that. What else it needs? It needs content bar. We have that. It needs content header. We have that. And it needs previews, which we don't have. So we have to do one more widget. In the widget section, let's create a new file and we will call it previews.dart. Okay, and then we will have entry. Okay, not this, but this one. And then we have entry provider, sorted details screens. Okay, now we'll go back to home. We have the previews now, so we can use that as well. I think home screen is sorted now. Let's go to watch list. It needs detail screen as well. Let's use that as well. Okay, cool. And then let's go to bar.dart. We have the watch list screen, so let's fill this as well. Let's do this as well. Let's do this as well. And in the header, there are a couple of more things which we need. Watch list provider. So let's add that as well. Okay, let's now uncomment watch list provider because that's also we have added. And onboarding screen we can add, and let's import. I guess what else is left? In the header, we have one more thing which is showing an issue, which is okay, which is this. Adaptive dialog is not needed, so let's remove that. Okay, so I think we are pretty much done with this application. Let's run it, okay, and then I'll try to explain each and everything to you. Okay, so Xcode build is done, and we have the app, guys, over here. It is saying rethrow. Let's do that. Okay, some error. Okay, the Netflix logo didn't appear for some reason. Okay, so this is what we have. Okay, so now I'll show you how this app is working, right? So when we go to main.dart, okay, so what is we are saying? We are saying ensure initialized, which means that make sure everything is initialized, right? Then we have multi providers where we have change notifier provider, account provider, entry provider, and three. So basically we have three providers. One is for account, which is for signing sign up. One is for entry, which is movie related, and third one is for watch list. Like if you have any preferences, that's the main reason. And then we call the main method, or sorry, the main class. And in main class we just say it's a material app which is having some blue primary swatch. And then we have future builder, which ask account provider whether the session is valid or not. because we are running this application for the first time, so the session is not valid. Okay, which means if session is null, which it is, so we will show the onboarding screen, otherwise we will show the nav screen. So let's go to onboarding screen. So what onboarding screen is saying, that we have a name controller where we have text editing controller, email controller, password controller. So there are name, email and password. We can see email and password. Name we are not using as of now, but we can use that. Then we have selected index, which is 0 by default, and we are saying assets logo dot png. Rather than this, we can go to assets folder. Okay, onboarding screen, right? So we can just say here assets dot we'll import it Netflix logo one. Okay, let's do it. Let's do a hard restart and let's see if this fixes the problem. Okay, we are not able to somehow, get that asset slash images. Okay, we are having some issues. So basically in the onboarding, let's close others. We can go to assets and we are missing images over here, images slash. So let's do a hot restart one more time, guys. Okay, now we can see the image. So Netflix, we can see email, password. That's what this onboarding screen is talking about. And so email controller is there and all those shit. And once you click on sign in, basically it says that please enter your email address. Okay, it shows you some alert dialog. Otherwise it just uses the API client and it calls the login method, which I have already shown you. Otherwise you can just sign up, and when you do sign up, let's see what happens. If I click sign up, you can see it shows me your name, email address, password and all those kind of things, right? So for that, we don't have the assets for that as well. So what I'm gonna do, okay, so this is the place where I have to change the assets. And okay, cool. So we are here in the Netflix logo, we have name, controller and all. Once we do this, it's when we do sign up, it calls api.register, where it will register some account for me. So I'll just write, let's say I'm writing Pawan Kumar. I have to write an email address, so I can just say require @gmail.com, and I have to choose a password. So I can just say 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9, and I'll just say sign up. So it is saying fail to register. Why? Because let's see, register your new client. The only thing is that it won't work as of now. The thing is that because we are using the local host URL over here, right? So we are using the local host URL. Fine. Okay, we have to add platform, which is new Flutter application. So we will add the new Flutter application platform. So we will add iOS, and then you can add something else as well. So I'll go to my runner and I'll just check the name, which is PK Netflix, and bundle ID is com.example.pk Netflix. We can do the same thing on Android as well, by the way. So we have just registered this, and this should be fine. And now if I go back to simulator, this is running as well. I'll go to sign up. I'll just say name as Pawan Kumar, and let's say I register as this email account which I already have, and something like this. Let's do a sign up, and let's see if this sign up works or not. Okay, so I don't know, there's nothing happening. Let's see if we have the users. Okay, we can see we have one user. Okay, so I really don't know what exactly is the process, like why it is not showing any like there is some issue with our UI, that it is not showing some progress bar or something like that. Let's try to do another sign up probably, right? Let's use some different email ID. Pawan to let's say hello codepur @gmail.com. Let's do another sign up. And if I go back, let's see if this user is created. Okay, we can see our users are being created. So that means this is working. Now we can just sign in. And if I sign in, okay, we can see after sign in we can see these movies and all. So what is exactly happening? If you go to onboarding, if you see render sign in and render sign up, so I'll just go to render sign in. And if I see here we just say api.login, right? And in the login we just notify our user that okay, the login is happened. So where exactly this happens, right? So we have the account provider. So we will go to now navigation dart, and here you can see we have the watch list screen, home and watch list, all those sort of things. So we call nav screen basically when so if we go to main.dart now, so we can see we have an account provider. If the session is there, then we use the nav screen. Okay, so now we are using the nav screen. We have all those sort of things here. So if we go back to nav screen, we can see we have on the home, we have home in the body, and then we have watch list and all. So if I go to home, then it's a home screen. So home screen, we can see we have a scroll controller which we are using. Then we have a content bar on the app bar, which is this bar. And then we have a custom scroll view, and then we have a content header where we can see Netflix logo or TV shows, movies, and my list. This part I'm talking about. And then we have preview. Okay, let's see if we, and we have this popular this week only on PK Netflix, which I'm just showing you, right? These are popular ones, are the previews. We have some issues over here, like some exceptions, which is totally fine. This is not the perfect application as of now, but this works pretty well. And then we have watch list. If I click on watch list, we haven't added anything to the watch list yet. So we can go to movies, my list. Okay, we can see the Batman has been added. So that's not a problem. Spider-Man we can add to my list. And that should work, I guess. If I go to my list, okay, this is not done. If I add to my list, okay, we have some error, but that's fine. Okay, like if I go back, I can see Spider-Man no Way Home. So all of these things are working, guys, pretty well. We can rate it, we can share, we can download. So how this entire stuff is working, let's take a closer look again. So what we are doing, let's talk about all the providers, because that is the major concept. Okay, UI anyone can make, not a big deal, but let's talk about the provider. So account provider's job is basically to give us where to log in, where to register, and where to check whether the session is valid or not. There is another one which is entry provider. The purpose of it to give us the entries, like all the entries, like all the movies, all the originals, all the animations, okay, which we don't have as of now. So that's why this like this is just kind of genre animation. We have some of them, we have some of those. Then the new releases, why it is not coming, guys, because if you remember, we haven't included all the data, right? So a lot of things are not coming. Then it gives us trending based on the filtration. Then we can select a particular one. Then it gives us a list of all the documents, like all the fields and all. And then images also using the storage API. And we can just pass the ID to that, right? So this is the purpose of entry. Then we have watch list, which is nothing but it uses the different collection watch list. And so basically we get account from there, we list the documents from there, we get movie IDs from there, we can get filters from there, and then we can add more entries using the database.create document. like the for watch list, right? So we can do all those sort of things, and we can remove as well, which will delete the document. And then using provider, we update it frequently. And in the info, we have this detailed screen. So if I go to detailed screen, this is what you see, right? So I'm not going into the UI part, how it is being made. Maybe we will create a separate video on creating the UI part. But majorly the important part is nothing but these three files, which is account, entry, and watch list, which I just showed you. That for files, you just say API client.storage.get file view, and you can take the example of this wrapper to, like play with it. You can do different things around it, and it should be a lot of fun, I guess. So this is majorly what we have achieved, that we are using, we set up the database first, and then we are also kind of doing this particular thing where we are showing the watch list and everything. So yeah, I mean, we have made properly the application. How to work between front end and back end. All the libraries are available on pub.dev. So if you enjoyed this video, do check out Appwrite. By the way, we are using Flutter 2.10.5 for this particular video. Also, make sure to give a like, subscribe on this channel if you enjoyed. So yeah, thanks for watching. Bye bye. I'll see you in the next one. And let me know if you have any thoughts or comments.